Good morning. It's a great morning here in the city of Columbus with our great mayors from around the country. I am so glad to have you all here. Because we'll be considering resolutions this morning, I urge you to review this section that explains the credential process. Page 7, or look in the notices section of our app. Please make sure you have your credential card in hand to be counted during any votes. Let's now begin the business session. I'd ask that mayors please keep their remarks concise. In the interest of saving time, if there is no objection, debate will be limited to 2 speeches of 2 minutes per mayor per question. As there is no objection, the rule is adopted for this meeting. The first item of business is to consider the resolutions before us, which, if passed, will become the official policy of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. The resolutions have come from our standing committees. The full membership may also consider any new resolution proposed by a member mayor at this session. Consideration of new resolutions requires a 2/3 vote of members present and voting. Any new resolutions will be considered after voting on all resolutions approved in the standing committees. At this time, the chair would like to know if any member mayor is offering a new resolution. Any new resolutions? The U.S. Conference of Mayors Executive Committee allows mayors to record a no vote on a specific resolution that is adopted in either a committee meeting or the business session during the annual meeting. In both cases, the mayor must be present for the vote. For a committee-passed resolution, the mayor also must be a member of the committee. This rule will not change the voting results on a resolution. To register a no vote on a resolution that passes during this business session, go to the resolutions section on the 91st annual meeting section of the app and tap the resolution on which you wish to vote. A vote button will be visible at the lower portion of the screen. Mayors, their staff, or their city representative will have until 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday, June 5th, today, to register the no vote. We will now consider the resolutions from the standing committees. The resolutions will be considered committee by committee in the order listed in the app. The procedure will be as follows. First, the chair of each committee or designee will make a brief presentation of that committee's resolutions and then move for adoption. Next, I will ask for a second. Then I will ask if any member mayor wants to have an individual resolution pulled for special consideration. Once the resolutions to be pulled have been identified and set aside, we will vote on the remaining resolutions for that committee as a block. We'll go through this procedure for all standing committees. Then we'll have a discussion on the resolutions pulled for special consideration, followed by a separate vote on each one. After that, we will take up any new resolutions. If parliamentary issues should arise during our debate, we have a professional parliamentarian present who will be able to assist us in resolving them. We figured that was better than a jump ball this early in the morning. His name is Tim Wynn, and he is to my right. We will begin with the mayor of Toledo, the great mayor, Wade Kapsakavich, who's the chair of the Community Development and Housing Committee. Mayor Kapsakavich?
Thank you, Mayor Ginther. The Community Development and Housing Committee met yesterday, June 3rd, to consider 8 resolutions submitted in a timely manner. The committee approved all 8 resolutions, numbers 16, 17, 18, 19, 15, 20, 21, and 22. I now move adoption of these resolutions.
I now call for a second on the resolutions as moved. Does any mayor want a resolution to be pulled from this committee? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block, including any resolutions that have been pulled for separate consideration. All those in favor say yea, and all opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the resolutions are passed. Thank you very much, Mayor Kapsakavich. Next is Mayor LeVar Stoney of the great city of Richmond, Virginia, Chair of the Children, Health, and Human Services Committee. Mayor Stoney?
Mayor Ginter, the Children, Health, and Human Services Committee met on Friday, June 2nd, to consider 15 resolutions submitted in a timely manner. I now move for the adoption of resolutions 1 through 15.
Thank you, Mayor Stoney. Is there a second on the resolutions? Thank you. Does any mayor want a resolution to be pulled from this committee? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block, excluding any resolutions that have been pulled for separate consideration. All those in favor say yea, and all opposed say nay. The yeas have it, and the resolutions are passed. Thank you, Mayor Stoney, for your continued leadership. I now call on Tampa Mayor Jane Castor, member of the Criminal and Social Justice Committee. Mayor Castor?
Thank you, Mayor Ginther. Criminal and Social Justice Committee met on June 3rd, 2023 and considered 10 resolutions submitted in a timely fashion. It combined Resolution 25 and 26 as the two resolutions were similar. In addition, the committee considered 2 new resolutions. The committee reported out 11 resolutions for consideration at this business session. I now move adoption of resolutions number 12, 14, 21, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 68, and 69.
Thank you, Mayor Castor. Now call for a second on the resolutions as moved. Thank you. Does any mayor want a resolution to be pulled? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block, excluding any resolutions that have been pulled for separate consideration. All those in favor say yea. And all opposed say nay. Thank you, Mayor Castor, for all your great work and that of the committees. I now call on Findlay Mayor Christina Mern, member of the Energy Committee. Mayor Mern?
Good morning. The Energy Standing Committee met on Friday, June 2nd, 2023 to consider 6 resolutions that were submitted in a timely manner and one late resolution that was introduced by a member mayor and accepted by the committee unanimously. The Energy Standing Committee voted unanimously in favor of all 7 resolutions, and I would move that resolutions 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 70 be accepted by the organization.
Thank you, Mayor Mern. Now call for a second on the resolutions as moved. Thank you. Does any mayor want a resolution to be pulled? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block, excluding any resolutions that have been pulled for separate consideration. All those in favor say yea. All opposed say nay. Yeas have it, and the resolutions are passed. Thank you, Mayor Mern. I now call on Columbia, Missouri Mayor Barbara Buffalo, member of the Environment Committee. Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor Ginther. The Environment Committee met on Saturday, June 3rd, and we considered 9 resolutions that were submitted in a timely manner. The committee reported out 8 of those resolutions. So I move to adopt the following resolutions: 30, 32, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and 41.
Thank you, Mayor. Now call for a second on the resolutions as moved. Any mayor want a resolution to be pulled? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block. All those in favor say yea. And all opposed say nay. The yeas have it, and the resolutions are passed. Thank you, Mayor Buffalo. Now call on Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt, acting chair of the International Affairs Committee. Mayor Holt?
Thank you, Mayor Ginther. The International Affairs Committee met on Saturday, June 3rd. We passed 2 resolutions. First, we considered resolution number 43. That was submitted in a timely manner. I do want to note that this resolution was double assigned to our committee and to Metro Economies. Each of those 2 committees made several deletions. Those deletions amounted to 7 paragraphs, either in total or in part, and those deletions are not yet noted in the resolution as listed in the app. So if you want to know what was deleted before that happens, hopefully that will happen soon, but come visit myself or Mayor Bronin. We have a edited copy. That resolution, as amended, was approved. A new resolution, number 71, was also submitted in an untimely fashion, but the committee approved consideration of it, and it was then approved and moved on to this body. So I move for the adoption of both resolutions, number 43 and number 71. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Holt. I now call for a second on the resolutions as moved. Does any mayor want a resolution to be pulled? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block. All those in favor say yay. And all opposed say nay. Yeas have it, and the resolutions are passed. Thank you, Mayor Holt. Next is Tacoma Mayor Victoria Woodards, Vice Chair of the Jobs, Education, and Workforce Committee. Mayor Woodards.
Thank you, Mayor Ginther. The Jobs, Education, and Workforce Standing Committee met on Saturday, June 3rd, to consider 8 resolutions submitted in a timely manner. The committee combined resolutions 25 into resolution 26 as the 2 resolutions were quite similar. I now move adoption of resolutions 44, 45, 46, 13, 47, 28, and 26.
Thank you, Mayor Woodards. Now call for a second on the resolutions as moved. Thank you. Does any mayor want a resolution to be pulled? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block. All those in favor say yay. And all opposed say nay. Thank you, Mayor Woodards. Oh, officially adopted. I skipped over that. Those have been passed. I got ahead of myself. Now I call on Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin, Chair of the Metro Economies Committee. Mayor Bronin.
Thanks, Mayor Ginther. Good morning. Metro Economies Standing Committee met last Friday and adopted 5 resolutions without any changes and 1 resolution with some significant changes, as mentioned by Mayor Holt. With that, Vice President Ginther, I move adoption of resolutions 22, 48, 49, 50, and 37, as well as Resolution 43 as jointly amended by the International Affairs Committee and the Metro Economy Standing Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Bronin. I now call for a second on the resolutions as moved. Thank you. Does any mayor want a resolution to be pulled? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block. All those in favor say yay. And all opposed say nay. The yeas have it, and the resolutions are passed. Thank you, Mayor Bronin. I now call on Fremont Mayor Lily May, member of the Technology and Innovation Committee. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Ginther. The Technology and Innovation Committee met on Saturday, June 3rd, 2023, and considered 6 resolutions submitted in a timely fashion. In addition, the committee considered 2 new resolutions. The committee reported out a total of 8 resolutions for consideration at this business session. I now move the adoption of resolutions number 46, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 72, and 73.
Thank you, Mayor. I now call for a second on the resolutions as moved. Second. Thank you. Does any mayor want a resolution to be pulled? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block. All those in favor say yay. Yay. And all opposed say nay. The yeas have it, and the resolutions are passed. Thank you, Mayor. Next, Reno Mayor Hillary Sheevey will present the report as chair from the Tourism, Arts, Park, Entertainment, and Sports Committee. Mayor Sheevey.
Good morning, Mr. Vice President.
Good morning.
The Tourism, Arts, Parks, Entertainment, and Sports Committee met and report out the following resolutions. Number 3, numbers 56 to 62. I move for their adoption.
Thank you, Mayor. Now call for a second on the resolutions as moved. Thank you. Does any mayor want a resolution to be pulled? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block. All those in favor say yay. And all opposed say nay. The yeas have it, and the resolutions are passed. Thank you, Vice President Sheeby. The final report will be given by Burnsville Mayor Elizabeth Couts, member of the Transportation Committee. Mayor Couts.
Thank you, Mayor Ginther. I am pleased to give this report of the Transportation Standing Committee, but first let me note that Committee Chairman Michael Hancock had to return to Denver. Tomorrow is Election Day in Denver, where votes will be taken to select the next mayor, and he wanted to be present there. As many of you know, Mayor Hancock leaves office next month after 3 terms and 12 years of service to the residents of Denver. I want to thank Mayor Hancock again for his service to this organization. He has served us well. With that, let me now deliver this report of the Transportation Standing Committee. The committee met Friday afternoon, June 2nd, to consider 6 resolutions, all submitted in a timely manner. Committee approved all of these resolutions, numbers 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, and 47. All resolutions are now moved for adoption of these resolutions, and I ask for a vote, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mayor. Now call for a second on the resolutions as moved. Thank you. Does any mayor want a resolution to be pulled? I now call for a vote on the resolutions in block. All those in favor say yea, and all opposed say nay. The yeas have it, and the resolutions are passed. Thank you so very much, Mayor Couts. The nominating committee report will now be given by Burnsville Mayor Elizabeth Couts. Mayor Couts.
Thank you, Mayor Ginther. I am pleased to report out for the nominating committee. Mayor Sylvester Turner chaired the committee. However, he was called back to his city yesterday and had to leave. And I'm honored to give the report, Mr. President. The nominating committee of the 91st annual meeting met in Columbus. We met on Saturday, June 3rd, and the following mayors were nominated for the following positions. For President, Mayor Hillary Sheeby of Reno. For Vice President, Mayor Andy Ginther of Columbus. For Second Vice President, Mayor David Holt of Oklahoma City. And we have mayors that we elevated to the Board of Trustees. Mayor Larian Gaylor Baird of Lincoln, Nebraska. Mayor Jerry Dyer of Fresno.
That's great.
Mayor John Mitchell of New Bedford. Mayor Aftab Purvell of Cincinnati. Mayor Stephen Reed of Montgomery. And for the advisory board, we have Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles. Mayor Abdul Hamoud of Dearborn. Mayor Quentin M. Hart of Waterloo. Mayor Maddie Parker of Fort Worth. Mayor Rex Richardson of Long Beach. Mayor Jim Ross of Arlington. Mayor Andy Shore of Lansing. Mayor Brett Smiley of Providence. And Mayor Matt Turek of Allentown. Mayor Ginther, I respectfully submit these nominations and ask for a vote of adoption of the slate.
Thank you, Mayor Couts, and to all of the members of the nominating committee for your hard work. Very much appreciate all the effort. Now call for a vote to accept the report of the nominating committee. All in favor say yay. All opposed say nay. The yeas have it. Congratulations to all of our new officers, trustees, and advisory board members. Thank you. Thank you. This ends our business session. I'd like to call our new president, Hillary Sheevy, our new second vice president, Mayor Holt, and CEO Tom Cochran to join us for a photo here on stage.
And I'd like to call the Vice President, Mayor Ginther, to the stage.
Mayors, please remain seated if possible. Our plenary session will begin again shortly. Good morning again, friends. It is my honor to introduce someone who honestly needs no introduction among this gathering. He is the former mayor of Columbia, South Carolina, and the 76th president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. He now serves as the director of the Office of Public Engagement for the Biden administration and senior advisor to the president. This is a big job, and the president could not have selected a better person to take on this role. He has spent decades serving the people of South Carolina and is now helping to make the White House accessible to and inclusive of all American people. I know it can be a little embarrassing to hear ourselves quoted, but there was a moment, I think a truly spiritual moment, that took place when our next speaker gave his outgoing president's address at our 2019 annual meeting in Honolulu. These words were spoken to those gathered, and I believe strengthened the resolve of us all to work even harder, push even further, and fight for those who have no one to fight for them. And I quote, "I want us each of us to take a moment to digest and reflect upon how far this great nation has come because of the bold leadership of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. In the vanguard of every major social justice movement that defined the second half of the 20th century, this organization, our USCM, has served as the platform for us to see what can happen in an America when seemingly ordinary people are given the opportunity to be extraordinary. When we speak to and act on the value of bold, inclusive leadership, mayors of every creed, race, faith, tradition, every region of this country, gay, straight, Republicans, Democrats, independents, young and not so young, lead in the great cities and towns that fuel the growth of our country. This is a time when America needs leaders, and I would submit to you that to you in this room, we have them in abundance, my friends." End quote. Friends, it gives me great joy to welcome back home to our United States Conference of Mayors, Steve Benjamin.
Thank you so much, my friends. Good morning. It's good to be back with family, with USCM, so many family and friends here. I want to thank Andy Ginther, my dear friend, for his introduction and for hosting us in the great city of Columbus. I want to thank Tom and the USCM team for your ongoing support and friendship. And I want to congratulate Hillary Sheevy on taking the mantle and the whole new conference leadership team. It's wonderful, as I know so many of you know. I see some of our former presidents here, Elizabeth and Brian, and several others. It's kind of cool watching people just move up in the organization and following this great tradition of leadership of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. As you know, as Andy mentioned, I now have the blessing, the opportunity to serve as senior advisor to the president and director of the Office of Public Engagement at the White House. In this role, I have the incredible opportunity to work with local leaders like you and organizations in your cities to make sure your voices are heard in the Biden-Harris administration. And I'll be working to support these organizations as a partner with you to implement the president's agenda and continue to deliver results. I'm grateful to be the part of the administration that has relied so heavily on the partnership with mayors and your cities. It is tough to turn a corner in the White House and not see a mayor, okay? Just let you know that. President Biden gets it, and I'm so fortunate to be in a position to help continue to strengthen that relationship and continue it. Since day one, our president has listened to and responded to the needs of our cities. Even before day one, he was calling mayors to ask us what we needed. We said we needed direct investment to make it through the pandemic, to keep cities' services running and small businesses open, and to spur a historic economic recovery. We said we needed to help fix roads and bridges and fill potholes, expand access to high-speed internet, and make it more affordable to ensure clean drinking water for every single American and to reconnect communities cut off from opportunity. We said we needed the federal government to take action to combat the growing climate crisis and match the local action that mayors are showing in leadership all across this country. And the president listened. With your help, he passed the American Rescue Plan to save cities, keep businesses open, and allow flexibility for innovative spending, not just to build back where we were, but to build back better. And with your input and advocacy and leadership, we passed the largest infrastructure investments since Eisenhower and the largest climate investment in U.S. history. By signing into law the historic American Rescue Plan, the bipartisan infrastructure law, the Inflation Reduction Act, CHIPS and Science Act, the president has led the most equitable recovery, economic recovery on record. These laws make up the administration's Investing in America agenda, which has created more than 12 million jobs since coming into office and led to historically low unemployment. And many of the pieces of the Investing in America are just beginning to hit the ground. The bipartisan infrastructure law transformed Infrastructure Week into an infrastructure decade, and much of the Inflation Reduction Act is still in the early stages of implementation. The IRA will enact 10 years of tax credits on clean energy technologies, providing unprecedented policy certainty and opportunity for entities that manufacture, install, and/or produce clean energy. And for the first time ever, this will include entities that do not owe federal income tax, including local governments. The Inflation Reduction Act made changes that will make it possible for these non-taxable entities to get a payment equal to the full value of the tax credit, which is revolutionary. Unlike competitive grants and loan programs in which applicants may not receive the award, direct pay ensures that applicants get their payment if they meet all of the requirements, again, by listening to mayors. The tax credits are going to be available for generating clean electricity through solar, wind, and more, installing EV charging infrastructure, manufacturing clean energy components like transformers and electric steel, processing critical minerals, and more. We'll have more guidance on the IRA to share soon, but please stay tuned. You're going to be a critical piece in this implementation. Over the past 2 years, the Biden-Harris administration has delivered generational investments to our communities and real results for working people. This level of progress, again, does not happen by accident, and it doesn't happen alone. Having been on the outside as part of this great organization, and now on the inside, I see the U.S. Conference of Mayors' fingerprints and the voices of our collective leadership of so many of you in this room and everything that happens in the Biden-Harris administration. Your support helped deliver the most investment local communities have seen from the federal government in our lifetimes. Your voices made sure the communities that you represent, the men and women and families that you fight for every single day, were at the table and in the rooms where the decisions are made. And your actions will be fundamental in finishing the job and implementing the president's economic agenda. I have to give credit to this administration long before I got there for listening to mayors, trusting our voices, and utilizing us as true partners in implementation. The president, vice president, first lady, and second gentleman have traveled all across our country to support our cities and our communities. On every trip, the mayor is the very first person to greet them. Few have visited more of our cities than the second gentleman of the United States, Douglas Emhoff. The second gentleman has been a uniting voice all across this nation, meeting with your communities and now leading the first, most comprehensive and ambitious national effort in U.S. history to counter anti-Semitism in America. And we're glad to have him here with us today. Please welcome second gentleman, Douglas Emhoff.
Thank you so much, my new colleague, Mayor Benjamin. Let's hear from Mayor Benjamin. I know the American people and the U.S. Conference of Mayors are so lucky to have one of their own leading the engagement efforts for the President of the United States and our administration. I look forward, Steve, to working very closely with you and your team as we continue to travel the country, and as he mentioned, meeting lots and lots of mayors. Good morning, Columbus. It's good to be back here. I've been here several times, and it's always great to be back. Good morning. On behalf of President Biden, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, my wife, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, thank you. I am here on behalf of the administration to just thank you for all the incredible work that you all do each and every day for your communities. And it's great to be here at the 91st annual meeting. I was actually at the 90th last year in Reno, so it's good to be back here. My wife spoke last year, and I'm honored to speak this year. As Mayor Benjamin noted, the four of us, and me in particular, have traveled all across the country over the last 2.5 years to many of your cities and towns. And I've got to tell you, I've gotten to see firsthand the work, the amazing work that all of you are doing each and every day for your communities. And I see it. You're balancing budgets, you're fixing potholes on the streets, you're ensuring your communities are safe, and yes, when you're at the market, you've got your constituents right there telling you all the things that you need to hear each and every day. And I know, because I see it, I know being a mayor is a tough job. But as I travel, I get to meet with your constituents, and I get to hear from them too. And what do they tell me? Well, they tell me about you and what a great job that you have done for them and their families and their communities. Almost 2.5 years ago, when neighborhoods across our nation, including yours, were plagued with COVID-19, the Biden-Harris administration got right to work and partnered with mayors and local leaders. We helped to provide vaccines and created pop-up clinics to ensure that everyone in your communities had access to vaccinations. Then we all worked together to ensure that schools and small businesses could reopen and stay open. And today, I was just at a small business this morning on the way in. Small businesses all across the country are thriving. Our economy is booming. You can feel it. Thank you. Our kids, they're back in school, full-time, learning. This administration has invested in your communities, in roads, bridges, tunnels, clean energy, broadband, so much else. You see firsthand the direct impact this funding is having on your communities and communities all across the nation. And that also means lots of good paying jobs right in your communities. And with your leadership, your support, our partnership, our collaboration, we've been able to accomplish so much together. And I'm also here to talk to some mayors and also talk to you a little bit about a topic that's very, very personal to me. I'm the first Jewish spouse of a president or a vice president in history, and I'm sorry to say that right now, anti-Semitic hate crimes are at the highest levels in history, right here in the United States, and sadly, all across the world. But I'm very pleased to announce that the Biden-Harris administration, just a few weeks ago, released the first all-of-government national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. A lot of people from all across the Biden-Harris administration put a lot of work into this, including input from 1,000 different organizations and different people. And we've come up with a very comprehensive strategy that addresses anti-Semitism, bias, and prejudice wherever it manifests its ugly head in neighborhoods, places of worship, on campus, online, and in the corporate community. But this strategy alone will not solve the scourge of this hatred, this anti-Semitism. It won't do it here, and it won't do it globally. So a plan is just a plan, and we need action. We need to implement this plan. And I know a lot of you mayors out there have already begun the hard work on fighting back against anti-Semitism. I'm about to host a roundtable with some of you who have already made commitments to help. But it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us in this room, all of us around the country. Anyone who's in a position of leadership must and needs to fight back against anti-Semitism and this epidemic of hate. We need all of us to finish this job. So thank you so much for having me here at the 91st conference. I look forward to our continued partnership with the Biden-Harris administration. I look forward to, as I continue my travels as second gentleman, to come back to your communities and get to hear from you, and I bring it right back to the administration so we continue to have an incredibly strong country. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank Doug Emhoff for being such a strong partner for America's local communities and to America's mayors. To my fellow mayors, I want to make it clear that we would not be where we are today without you and your leadership, and we're not going to get where we need to get to without your full support. I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you in this new capacity and other incredible leaders on the ground as we work to deliver more for America's cities. As many of you know, I got here just late last night because our daughter finished high school this weekend. We had a series of activities supporting Bethany, and I made the point yesterday as DeAndre and I had to speak to a group of other young people who were all much smarter than we were at their age, that there's a difference between being academically smart and emotionally intelligent. And that's what you get when you work with a team of peers and others who hone you into being a better and better leader every day. So I'll say this, John's probably in John Mitchell, but those of you who live in maritime cities know a lot about ships, and I always have a toast about ships. I'm not going to do a toast right now, Brian Barnett, although you probably want me to. I will say this, though. There are 3 ships we should all try to sail every single day. I know you do. One is leadership. We're real leaders in this room, leaders on the local level that make the difference on the ground. Relationships. Continue to work within this organization to build strong relationships with one another. It makes each and every one of us better, and by extension, our cities that we lead better. And then build real friendships. Friendships, so that when you're in your toughest times, your darkest moments, you have friends you can call who can help you through the most difficult times. And I'll throw one more ship in there. I would tell you to also sail the ship of mentorship. Continue to develop leaders for the next generation. That's what this organization has done since 1932. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you for having me here with you today. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you, and God bless you, and let's go finish the job. Thank you.
Good morning again. Please join me in thanking the second gentleman and Steve Benjamin for being with us here today. So grateful to have them back and talking more about the work we're going to be doing together. Our next panel is on the topic of bipartisan opportunities in the 118th Congress. It's no secret that political polarization is increasing in our communities and certainly in our Congress. Pew Research study, for instance, found that on average, Democrats and Republicans in Congress are further apart today ideologically than at any time in the past 50 years. At a time of increasing polarization, it's more crucial than ever to work to find avenues for compromise and collaboration across the aisle. We are one of the last bipartisan organizations left in America. We have to be purposeful and intentional about protecting that commitment. Joining me today are our newly elected President and Second Vice President, Reno Mayor Hillary Sheevey, and Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt, who have each shown themselves as committed advocates for our bipartisanship in our American cities. Please welcome them.
He's following.
Welcome. Mayor Sheevey, congratulations on becoming the president of this great organization, and Mayor Holt for becoming our second vice president. As the top three officers of the conference, we exemplify the conference's bipartisanship. We are Republican, Independent, and Democrat. We want to take some time this morning to share some thoughts about the importance of bipartisanship, not only to this conference, but to Washington and the nation as a whole. Partisanship seems to be getting even more intense these days, with few signs that it will lessen anytime soon. Yet the recent debt ceiling deal between the president and Speaker McCarthy is a positive sign. Washington can still find ways to be bipartisan when the stakes are high. But I think the U.S. Conference of Mayors can play a critically important role to make more of those opportunities a reality. Mayor Sheevey, we don't want to steal your thunder from your luncheon address, but I know you dealing with the mental health crisis will be a top priority for you and this conference under your leadership. Tell us why you think this issue can yield bipartisan support on Capitol Hill and across the nation. How do you think mayors can be a catalyst for bringing Americans together on this issue?
Well, I think for mayors, it's very, very simple. We always say there's no Democratic or Republican way to clean a street. I think when we see these issues firsthand that are humanitarian crisis especially, they're so polarizing, they're so stark, they're so just incredibly emotional that I don't think that we look at that as a Democrat or Republican issue. I think people are starting to talk about it. Matter of fact, last night, Nikki Haley on CNN talked a lot about mental health. That was great to see, starting to see more Republicans talk about mental health. And so I just think that people are recognizing that this is a national crisis. They're finally starting to talk about this national crisis on both sides. And I think there's a financial component that happens too, that we're spending billions of dollars and it's failing. So both sides can understand that.
Yeah, it's something that I think we really do play a role in elevating this conversation, but also kind of setting the rules of engagement, the framework for engagement around how to solve it, and a critically important role for mayors. Mayor Holt, you were the co-lead on the conference's effort to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law with former President Nayib Whaley. Tell us about the importance of this effort, all our endless Zoom calls, and the role you think the conference and its bipartisanship played in passing the infrastructure bill.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a great example of the importance of bipartisanship and how we present ourselves can really make an impact. I really think that the mayoral effort in relation to the bipartisan infrastructure law was pretty historic, absolutely impactful on the ultimate passage of that. I thank Mayor Whaley for inviting me to co-chair that effort with her. And it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of fun because we were very active. I mean, we as an organization, we've put letters together. We've even made press conference appearances before, but this was a really sustained effort, something like I haven't seen in my 5 years here. It went on for months, and the endless Zoom calls that you just referenced. I mean, that wasn't just our weekly calls as a group, but also there were state level calls that were happening. Mayor Whaley was leading the charge to have Ohio mayors meet with their senators via Zoom, and Nevada mayors meet with their senators via Zoom, and all of that collectively had a real impact. It was a very unique experience. And what I noted at the conclusion of all that, when the bill actually went through the Senate and the House, was that the ecosystem that mayors created, and I should say very importantly, a bipartisan ecosystem, was being referenced by the legislators, right? I was name-checked on the Senate floor by a senator who rattled off Republican mayors that were for this bill. Now, in that case, it was a Democrat. And what I found was interesting was that Republican mayoral support, which then made it a bipartisan grassroots support for the bipartisan infrastructure law, was almost as impactful with some Democrats in Congress, and maybe in some cases more impactful than it was for some Republicans. Obviously, we ultimately didn't get any real bipartisan support in the House. We did have some for sure in the Senate, including the leader, Mitch McConnell. But it seemed like it brought a comfort level to everyone, regardless of party, that Democrats felt like, hey, this really is a bipartisan bill because you've got these Republican mayors out there joining their Democratic colleagues to support this. And I think it helped the whole effort. So who knows what that will be channeled into in the years ahead, perhaps mental health, perhaps other initiatives. But I think we have a very important case study that we all lived through that demonstrated that when bipartisan mayors get behind something in a big way, in that case, we took it all the way to the finish line and to the south lawn of the White House. And that was a great moment for this organization that I think we'll always remember.
Yeah, it definitely made a big difference here in Ohio. Senator Portman was one of those folks who name-checked David Holt and all the Republican mayors in support of that bipartisan infrastructure law, and he was critically important to helping get that done. And so it does matter. It does have an impact. So in a similar vein, I can remember when the Congress was debating the American Rescue Plan, and we were trying to make sure that COVID assistance went directly to cities. Over 400 Democrat, Republican, and independent mayors signed our U.S. Conference of Mayors letter in support of the state and local recovery funds that brought us $65.1 billion in direct aid. These funds did not go through states, but straight to cities. Direct aid of this magnitude was unprecedented. The White House knew we were speaking as a bipartisan organization. We know it made all the difference in the world. We were in the national press as the bipartisan voice for the bill because we were the only bipartisan voice at the time. That was our strength. I truly believe that we were the driving force of ARPA's passage, which the entire nation, as we all know, needed so badly. I think that's why bipartisanship is so important. Mayor Sheevy, in addition to mental health, I'm wondering if you and Mayor Holt think workforce development is also an area that has the potential for some bipartisanship on the Hill. I know in Ohio we need workers and we need trained workers. I hear this from all of our employers, nonprofits, and everyone I speak with. To both of you, is this another area, another opportunity for us to bring the nation together to support a much larger commitment to worker training and retraining?
Yeah, I absolutely think so, and I kind of always look at it. Listen, there's always something that we're going to agree on. Like I always say, beer tastes good, but before you say that, know your audience. I said it to a bunch of 16-year-olds. We were at a college speaking, and I thought they were all college students. But my point is there is something that we can always agree on, right?
That's right.
So I don't think it's that difficult. It really isn't. And I think one of the reasons why mayors actually have a lot of power is because we have the support of the people. And then we can go to Congress and show them we're sort of leading by example. But I think we have a real opportunity here, especially with mental health and workforce development, because they make such impacts on our economies
Yeah.
and the overall health of our nation. That's why. And both sides get that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Both sides get that.
Absolutely. David?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you guys, workforce development is something I'm hearing a lot about, and I know it's a big point of emphasis in Oklahoma City and at the state level in Oklahoma. So definitely sounds like a topic that perhaps the three of us can kind of lead the charge on in the 3 years that we collectively have in front of us, and try to see if the federal government can support that as well. And who could, I'm sure somebody will try, but who could make that a partisan issue? That's a need. That's a need that seems to cross the ideological spectrum.
Yeah. It's very likely we'll need to rally our mayors this year to protect our key programs, such as CDBG, housing and homelessness programs, our energy block grant, funding for substance abuse treatment and other vital programs. To respond to this challenge, we formed a legislative action committee chaired by Mayor Brian Waller. The LAC will be working with all our mayors to protect these programs. We reached out to moderates such as the Problem Solvers Caucus, the Republican Study Group, and more to promote bipartisanship on the Hill. And we all have important members of Congress who we know. My question is this: what can we as mayors do back home to shore up support for these programs with our own members of Congress, folks from both sides of the aisle?
Well, first, it really helps when you jump on a plane to Washington and you happen to be sitting next to your congressman, because you hold him hostage for like 6 hours. It's so good. That just happened to me. No, actually, I mean, it's relationships like anything else. I mean, that's what's great about our country. We can be different and think differently. And I mean, think about that, how often you have very close friends, but you don't like the same music or the same foods, things like that. I mean, we're not that different, right? I think it's just relationship building. There are times I get along great with my congressman, and he's a Republican. I get along great with all my other representatives are on the southern end of the state, so it's really Congressman Amade on the north, so that's kind of interesting. So we get a little bit jealous. We feel like the South gets much more, but we're a smaller state, so we get along really, really well. They're always reaching out to me. I always reach out to them. We're very accessible. I think it just goes to relationship building and appreciating them when they're, when they're fighting for you. And so I'm really lucky to be from a state that we all sort of work together.
Dave?
I think a couple points here to hit on. One is I'm sure we've all been in the situation where we've thought, I'm not going to bug him on this. I hate to always be talking. I think I'll leave it alone. And then I start to. There's another voice in my head that says, well, they hear from lots of other people.
Yeah.
And, if this viewpoint is not being articulated by me, I'm not sure it's going to be articulated by anybody. And so what chance does it have? I mean, they need to be able to say, well, I've been hearing from people, or I've been hearing from mayors, or I've been hearing from Mayor Sheevy. That helps them, right? And it maybe gives them the cover they need, and it also maybe allows them to truly hear a different perspective than the one they're hearing. So I think we do have to reach out to our members of Congress, even if maybe it seems like on the surface, maybe there's not much there, but how can that ever change if we're not speaking up? And then the second point I want to make is, and you alluded to this in your opening there, Andy, was like the fact that we each have members of Congress who may play key roles in some of our specific issues. So I feel like at some point, I noticed at some point in the last 4 months, it seemed like the Republicans took over the House, new committee chairmanships were named, and conference staff started to look at that list, and for example, they saw, oh my goodness, here's a new Republican committee chair who's got community development block grants and all these other vital things, and his name is Tom Cole of Oklahoma. Does anybody know Tom Cole of Oklahoma? Where does he represent? Oklahoma City. Oh, well, let's call Mayor Holt. So that process is now well underway, and but it just goes to show. I mean, with 435 people in all these different roles, and it's always changing. all of a sudden you may wake up one morning and suddenly your congressman is is at the center of a really important conversation, and that's what happened recently in Oklahoma City. So, and by the way, he's one of those people who's very reasonable and is not out to get our key programs. But I had that conversation to make sure, right?
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah. And I expect we'll have more in the future. So, make sure that you've touched base with Mayor Waller and with conference staff. To make sure that you're doing what you need to do in your own backyard, because you may have a key House member or senator who is vital to our urban concerns.
And to your point, this is very good. I'm glad you brought that up. Do not assume, because when I got on that flight with Congressman Amedee, I said, "Oh, I'm sure, Congressman, you've heard so much about this lands bill that we're been talking about." And he said, "Well, not as much as I'd like, Hillary." And he said, and I actually am not happy that I feel like I should have been a little bit more included in some of these conversations. Yep. So don't assume, because I think that's exactly to your point, that you think, oh, everyone's been bombarding them. Don't assume that. And so that was something that I learned, because part of me was kind of like, do I want to bug him again, right? So it was good that from now on, I will always call him.
Don't assume.
And don't assume.
So share with me your favorite or best examples our members of Congress and so forth are working in an exceptionally polarized environment. The old adage, I quote Peduto all the time, former mayor of Pittsburgh, there are three kinds of people: Republicans, Democrats, and mayors. We are, although there is a polarized environment around us, it's not the way mayors operate generally. So give me your best advice, either for a newer mayor or a mayor that's in an environment with maybe a more polarizing or partisan member of Congress or U.S. Senator. For me, it's always about finding neutrality in every way, shape, or form. Visits to Washington are great. Inviting people to City Hall are great. But sometimes, with certain members and certain issues, meeting somewhere in between and having some third parties potentially join you, faith leaders, the business community. For me as a Democrat, having members of the business community being part of those conversations with members and senators can have a huge impact. Talk a little bit about how you've, an experience or an example of a situation like that you've been able to find some common ground in a difficult situation, or maybe with a more partisan member.
Well, first of all, I would say walk into a room and get to know them as a person, right? I really live by, I always vote for people, not party. A lot of times I don't even know what party they are, because I come in from a totally different perspective, because I really want to know both sides. Now, are you going to agree with that person on everything? No. Let's be realistic about that. But I think you can understand where they're coming from a lot better. And I know we do this, because we just do, we tend to prejudge, right? When you hear someone voted a certain way, we really need to be open-minded and say, okay, well, you need to understand why. And then a lot of times that might make sense. But I would say the best advice that I ever have received, I think, in politics in general, is this is a game of addition, not subtraction. So, bring everyone in, but I think you bring them in as people first. And that makes a totally different dynamic. Know about their family. Know about the things that matter to them. Get to know them outside of politics, because there's a world of so many wonderful things out there. So get to know people first and take the politics out, because that has really made a difference for me.
That's great. David?
Yeah, I think all of that. I think your advice, Mayor Ginther, on bringing maybe third parties to bear if maybe you don't think that you're going to be persuasive, I think that's a great suggestion. And on if you have a member of Congress who, for whatever reason, maybe has not been voting predominantly with your position. Look, I'm from Oklahoma. I have an entirely Republican delegation. They all voted against the bipartisan infrastructure law, so I've got some experience with that. But upon occasion, maybe my piece of advice to add to this conversation would be, when they, upon occasion, do something right, be sure and thank them,
Yes.
after the fact. You know, it's easy to kind of move on. Oh,
Sure,
okay, that's
yeah.
done, and like you forget about it. But you know, take a moment, whether it's a text or a letter or something. You know, show your gratitude because you're hopefully planting a seed for the future.
And I do it, you know, we're doing tons of press conferences and ribbon cuttings and other things around the country with the infrastructure law and ARPA spending and things like that. And I really make a point to thank those that supported that bill, Republican and Democrat, at those ribbon cuttings, because quite honestly, the resources wouldn't be in our cities without them. One of the other things we've been able to do here locally, we've got a couple of more recent former members, and it's amazing once folks get out of that environment, whether they're Democrat or Republican, the polarization and the partisanship goes down a little bit. So we have a couple of former members of Congress, you know, that have been very helpful on trying to connect some dots and fill some gaps there. So any other advice you all have or thoughts about bipartisanship moving forward? I know this
Well, if you plan to run for higher office, you probably should not be an independent. I will say, I notice when I go to the legislature, it's really funny. They'll call me, hey, Mayor, we need you for this, we need you for this. Then I get down there and I'm like, hey, I need you for this. And both parties go, so you do learn a little bit because it is harder. It's harder to raise money. It's hard, or you know. But I love it because some people think I'm an R and some people think I'm a D, and I think that's really great. And it also gives me a lot of freedom to really vote the way that I want to vote. But I will say, if you want to run for a higher office, you probably don't want to be an independent, which is too bad because I think we need more people that are independent thinkers because the parties have gotten, and I'm sure you've noticed, they're different. They're not the same parties that I saw 10 years ago.
Sure.
Very different parties.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a little bit of advice.
Any final thoughts, David? Any advice?
Well, you know, it's interesting you said that, Hillary. You know, you think that the way we govern as mayors is maybe damaging to future offices. But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Those people who serve in those offices, I can see the envy in their faces.
Yeah.
Because we're governing the way they thought they were going to govern.
It's true.
When they were in their 20s, and they
interesting,
dreamed of being a governor or a U.S. senator, they dreamed of doing exactly what we do every single day. And now they feel trapped in a system that wasn't what they thought it was going to be. So, you know, when people, I'm sure people say this to you guys all the time, oh, you should run for governor, you should run for that. And you're kind of thinking, I don't know if that's really very practical or likely. But I also think when people say that, that's a lateral move at best. I've got one of the best gigs in American politics. I'm a mayor, you know, and I get to bring people together regardless of whether they're Republican, Democrat, and Independent, and I'm getting things done. I'm effective, and I'm governing just the way I dreamed I would when I was 25 and I thought about a life of public service. So I think this is the best job, and I'm honored to sit on this stage with you, honored to serve with all of our mayors here today, and thank you. I'm sure I speak for all three of us when I say thank you for giving us this opportunity to serve as your officers for the next 3 years.
You so remind me of one of my first meetings, U.S. Conference of Mayors, Bob Buckhorn, former mayor of Tampa, was leaving and getting an award, and he said this quote that still stands with me today. Many run for office to be, mayors run for office to do. And I think it just struck a chord with me. I was just talking to a young person recently who was talking about wanting to position themselves to run for the U.S. House or the U.S. Senate. And I encouraged them, if that was their goal, they probably didn't want to run and be mayor because it is much harder to accomplish things, get things done. You're right. There's a great deal of envy from folks in the state legislature and other more partisan positions for the role of mayor, but to do the job and to do it well with all your heart and soul, it means you're going to have to make tough decisions that are not going to be welcomed by folks on the far right or left.
Can I just say that's
Please.
why I love the United States Conference of Mayors, because you build friendships that you would not normally get to experience. There's nothing like another mayor that can pick up the phone and you are so relieved to hear their voice.
Yeah.
Like Mayor Couts, we do
Yeah.
all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm so relieved because you get it. You understand what it's like. Because a lot of times when things are bad, everyone else is, now you're on this island. When things are good, everyone's like, yeah, let's go. Reno's doing so great. We love it. And then when things are, not going so well, the people that are there are other mayors. And so I'm just really grateful for the relationships from the conference because I think they'll be, I've seen them be life-changing for me.
Everybody wants to be mayor until it's time to be mayor. This is going to be an exciting year with Mayor Sheevy at the helm. I know Mayor Holt and I stand ready to follow your lead, and as are all the mayors in this conference, and so grateful for all of your work and service. As all mayors that are with us today, please stand ready to help us in the 118th Congress. I think it's really important for us to build relationships with our members of Congress and senators at home. It's a way for you to get and build, as we talked about, more personal relationships, build your networks of folks that can influence those members of Congress in productive and positive ways, because we really do want to make sure that we're living out our commitment and spirit. You really do have to be purposeful and intentional about being bipartisan in this environment, and I know this is going to be a big focus for us in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. We appreciate your important work. Please join me in thanking our panelists for that important discussion. We will see you at noon for the luncheon, where we will hear from our new president, Mayor Hillary Sheevy, in our final.